Hello and welcome to Now is the Time. I'm Meri Crouley. And you know, today I'm with Opal Singleton again, who is the CEO and founder of Million Kids. And she's also a radio host and has literally trained over 100,000 people in, how to spot people that are sex trafficking, how to help your children so that they don't become a statistic. And we're going to be talking about social media and how predators, literally there's 3 to 5 million predators on the internet that are actually looking for people and looking for kids to groom. So be sure to listen and share this with your friends, because this is going to be a powerful interview that I believe thousands are going to be benefited by this program today. Welcome to the program, Opal.
Thank you. Thank you, Meri, for having me on.
You know, we were talking on the last program about, sex trafficking and how it's just increased. I know that in the statistics that I've read, since 2016, it's grown 35.7% in the United States alone.
And that's what we know about.
Right. So just give a brief overview on the statistics in the United States and worldwide, just, to have a common ground here with the audience.
Okay, well, I don't normally work with national statistics because I work with real law enforcement, and really what I look at is local cases. And I can tell you that I've been doing this since 2010, and we are absolutely snowed. I work with the Riverside County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. I report to the Riverside County Sheriff Department and through a Department of Justice grant. And we have 7 full-time people on our task force and 7 that we borrowed. And literally, sometimes we have over 200 open cases. Now, the scary part of that, and the reason why these statistics are a little hard to track, is that there's various levels of exploitation. In other words, that doesn't include kids who are being blackmailed with a naked photo. Kids that are maybe being sextorted, as we call it, kids who are victims of child pornography. That doesn't include just child abuse. This is young people being sold into commercial sex. This is what we think of as prostitution. And literally, I mean, we have more cases, we can't keep up with it. And they're big cases. Not only are we seeing this as an epidemic, what's interesting is it isn't just a pimp and a couple of girls. You will see entire sex trafficking rings. I have one case out in Riverside that just finished off. He got 122 years in prison. Yes, thank you, God, okay? And literally, originally, it had over 200 original victims in it. About 120 were quite exploited, and there were 17 that were put into hardcore trafficking. And these are our young people, and mostly being done through the internet. So it's gangs and it's social media. But what we're seeing is, in the original sex trafficking with gangs, it was kids that were from broken homes, foster kids, homeless, pregnant. But now what we're seeing is regular kids, and sometimes wealthy kids, that are vulnerable through the internet. Because what will happen is that they're looking for availability and vulnerability, as we said in our last show. And so think about it. You get a wealthy family, and all of a sudden they're in a divorce. And so it isn't, who gets the kids this weekend. It's who has to take the kids this weekend, because it gets in a fight over who's dating or whatever. And so what will happen there is that leaves the kids alone for long periods of time getting onto the internet, meeting total strangers, and those kids want approval. It's an interesting thing what happens on social media. You get behind a computer, okay, or your smartphone, and all of a sudden you feel anonymous, and you kind of overcome your inhibitions, and you deny your normal instincts. And our kids are good at it. Our kids are living in a fantasy world. They believe. I actually did a survey in a church where 1/4 of the youth group said sin on the internet was not sin. They believe that what they do on the internet has no consequences because it's just a game. It's a fantasy world. And they're not able to project out that the conversation they're having with total strangers will lead them to becoming violated.
Well, and I believe, and I know this is true, that our country, our society is being sexualized.
Oh, boy.
I mean, literally, you look at the way the media changes the way people think.
That's right.
And right now, our country is being indoctrinated by a small group of people that are literally trying to tell, us and our children what we should think like, look like, and be like. And that's why I believe that they're so open to just coming into this next stage and phase of what's happening in the sex trafficking. So give me a scenario of a girl.
Okay, before I do that, let me share with you, I could not agree with you more, Mary. In fact, I did my radio show this morning, my global radio show on that very subject. In the last month, we've had Teen Vogue magazine. I guess I can say this on the air because they published the magazine. Teen Vogue magazine, a magazine for 13 to 19-year-old girls, put out a magazine article, a tutorial for teenagers on how to do anal sex. And it's totally normal, okay? You talk about normalizing crazy behavior. And just this week, Netflix put out a movie called Big Mouth. And I would encourage parents to literally go out there and go into Google and put in Netflix Big Mouth and look at the trailer. It is all about children having sex with other children. It is child pornography. They are talking about private parts. They have dancing penises on there. I mean, this is a crazy, crazy time. And it is all about taking that, the idea that your body is something sacred and relationships is something you engage in. I had a girl at school the other day tell me that she sends out a naked photo before she goes on a date. And I said, why would you do that? And she said, well, they won't date you if they don't have it. And I'm saying, what kind of date are you on? Snapchat this last month released Snap Money. And their headline on it said, now you can monetize the selfie. What kind of selfie are you monetizing? Who's paying for that selfie? We are absolutely taking out any base level of morality through social media, and it is absolutely changing our country.
Well, I know that one of my, just to interject, one of the girls that I know said that she recently was on a dating site, and that a lot of these guys now are wanting to see a selfie of her naked.
That's right.
And I'm going, are you kidding me? They're wanting to see naked selfies. And this is something that I think is appearing normal.
Right.
But this is not normal.
Yes.
This is perverted.
Let me go back and I'll give you a story that goes with this. But the way a predator works is he usually comes in on instant messaging. And in the instant messaging, what it'll be like Messenger or Kik or one of those kind of thing, Instagram, and they'll say something cute and funny. And so the girl will say something cute and funny back. This generation loves to talk to strangers because they can. This is the first generation that can reach the entire world. So he says something cute and funny. She says something funny back. If they meet on, let's say, Instagram, they'll do a Snapchat, maybe a Facebook, maybe a Messenger. They'll go over to a YouTube, and then pretty soon, let's play Xbox. Mom and Dad are saying, don't talk to strangers on there. But he's not a stranger because she's texting him 20, 30 times a day. So she's protecting him. So I'll give you an example of a case that happened out in our area. This was a man who was reading my book, Seduce. His 12-year-old daughter, remember she hasn't been through puberty yet, and her 12-year-old daughter was thinking she was talking to a kid who was 16 from San Diego. So in the middle of the night, he heard her window shut. He went down there. Now, this is a great father. He's right on it. He heard this window shut. He panicked. He went down there, and she was gone. He got in his car. He backed out the drive. He looks down the street, and his 12-year-old daughter, 3 blocks down the street, is getting in the car with a total stranger. By the way, I have on average 1 case a week like this in my neighborhood where they sneak out and meet up with somebody. This particular father just panicked. He raced down there. He caught the guy driving. He knocked him out cold and was able to retrieve his daughter. But here's what I want parents to understand, is that that girl thought she was talking to a guy who was 16. She's thinking Justin Bieber, okay? Somebody really hot from San Diego. This guy was 27 years old, and he was a registered sex offender. 10 seconds later, her life and the life of that family would have changed forever. But I want parents to understand this. This guy did not drive up there and break into that house and go into that bedroom and kidnap that girl. He got her to text the guy and say, meet me at 2 in the morning. My dad's putting the heat on me. He got her to crawl out a bedroom window, and he got her to walk 3 blocks down the street in the total dark when she normally would have been terrified. That's what I mean by grooming. Now, they get these kids to literally raise their hand and say, take me, because, first of all, they don't have cognitive reasoning. They're 12. They haven't finished puberty, and you've made the connection. As a parent, you gave them the phone. You have implied consent. And now she is acting on that, and what are you expecting? She's not an adult.
And don't they often, Opal, don't they try to pit the, against the parent, like, oh, your parents just don't understand you. Mm-hmm. They don't really know who you are. Mm-hmm. They try to give power to the child.
That's right. Absolutely. And the scary part here is parents somehow have a blind eye to technology. I always say this is the first generation that's never not known the internet, and this is the first generation of parents that are technophobic, and some are techno-impotent. And what is interesting is a father, a very good father, will buy his son a game where he's able to engage in sex with a prostitute and literally kill her. And the father, if he saw this kid talking to a real-life prostitute, he'd go, hey, son, we don't do that,
So you mean there's actual games that
Yes.
we were going to talk about this, video games that you can actually go online and have sex with a prostitute and kill the prostitute?
Grand Theft Auto. I did a high school not too long ago. Out of 450 kids, 300 had the game. About 200, you pay real money. You pay $20, $50, or $70 for the full Monty, and you engage in virtual sex with a prostitute, and when you're through, you kill her to get your money back. I asked these kids, out of 200 that had the virtual sex, I asked them, how many of you feel bad? 2 feel bad. They will tell you it's just a game, and it really doesn't count. Now, I want to address this a little bit with your audiences and your families. I believe that this will be the first generation where their first sexual experience of their child will be a virtual sexual experience. And I think most parents haven't thought that out. Let me share a YouTube I saw that was just crazy to me. The little girl was 11. She hasn't been through puberty, right? And she doesn't have a complete frontal lobe either. Mom got her Minecraft. Now, you can play Minecraft and play it safely with no chat room, okay? Or you can play it with a chat room only to people you know.
And so Minecraft, just for the people watching, Minecraft is a video game.
That's right. And all the kids play it. If you're playing it in a chat room where you know everybody and you've met everybody, you're reasonably safe, okay? But this parent got the Minecraft where she could talk to anybody in the chat room. So before I tell you about the video, let me explain to you why that's a problem. You see, a video game is different than going to a movie. You might see a dirty movie with your child and you talk about it and it happens to that character and you go home, okay? A video game, you get an avatar, you give it a name, and you go in and you might have sex, you might have violence, but you have a score and you have a chat room of people you've never met. That child's acceptance and rejection of that team, of their team, is based on their score. And you've now opened the door to an entire group of people who have, many of them you would not allow in your living room. So this 11-year-old girl had Minecraft with a chat room. Okay, so we're watching it, and the video is being made by adult males that are in the chat room. And this little girl's character is obviously very wobbly. The girl's not good. And a little boy character comes along and starts having sex with her little girl character. And, of course, all the guys are laughing. And they're going, and the girl, character is sitting there being raped. And the boys are going, hey, honey, don't take that. Honey, do something. Defend yourself. Run from him. And literally, you heard this little voice, 11-year-old voice go, I don't know how. And the little boy character come along and turned her little girl character around and started doing her from the back. And all the guys laughed. Now think about that, mom and dad. She's 11. This is her first sexual experience. Is she going to process that with shame? And the reason, Mary, that is so important to me, 70% of sex trafficking victims were previously sexually molested. We're starting an entire generation that are having virtual sex with strangers. Shame is not like guilt. Guilt says I did something wrong. Shame is I am wrong. And we're having a generation of people who are having virtual sex that will cause them to process shame.
You know, this is mind-boggling, people. Yeah. I mean, I had no clue that literally, I guess, you know, my kids are grown now.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, when my kids were, you know, back in the day, I mean, they were playing like Donkey Kong, and I mean, I don't even remember. Monopoly. It was just, you know, just Pac-Man or something, and then it got a little bit more and a little bit more. But that's the way the enemy, the devil, works.
Right.
He tries to get you in the little, you know, tepid water, and he turns up the heat little by little by little, and before you know it, you're cooked. Mm-hmm. The fact I had no clue that at this Minecraft and these other ones that they're literally having virtual sex.
Let me share with you one other case I saw. This is a YouTube. There is a product out there called Connect, and now there is live streaming inside a video game. Now, that's a problem for law enforcement. How do we get a search warrant to even record voice? But now we have live streaming that disappears. But I saw on YouTube where a guy had a 12-year-old son, again, not gone through completed puberty, and he walked in on him, and he is literally on his screen a naked man who's doing his sexual thing in front of his 12-year-old son, and his 12-year-old son's doing it back. Now, the father went crazy. He ran around, he disconnected all the equipment, and he sat down with the boy. And the boy, all of a sudden, on his phone, he's seeing he's been doing this with several guys. But what I just told you is we now have live streaming within a video game. And that will change everything. That means that pedophiles can come into your video game and look in your living room. First of all, look in your living room. Second of all, they can tell your child's not a cop. And third of all, your child is bonding in the middle of a sexual experience with a total stranger in your living room with a device which you bought them, implied consent. On top of it, if you as a parent come in there and glom onto this kid in the middle of this, what in the heck are you doing? You've now added another layer of shame while your child has been caught in a sex act while he's going through puberty. I feel very strongly that no one under the age of 16 should be allowed in a video game that has a lot of violence, a lot of sex, okay, and also needing the approval of the people in those chat rooms. If you buy your child a video game, I would suggest you sit down and play that game with you. Now, I know I'm kind of dominating the conversation, but I want to share something very important to your families out here. There is a new gaming model out. What is happening, this is brand new, it's called freemium, free and premium, freemium. And so what is happening is you used to buy your child the video game. You used your credit card and you picked it out with them. And then you put your child in that video game and they need the approval of the team. But this year, Game of War and League of Legends has started freemium modeling, meaning they give your child the game for free. But they're building in obstacles into the game. The average person, when they would get a game, like your child, they would use their Bitcoin account and they would spend $89 buying some upgrades, okay, some tattoos. They got to get that score up. So if they're not good players, they can buy some tattoos and equipment and gets the score up.
So just to interject, so this Bitcoin, do they actually have to have money? Is this something they have to put into it initially?
When you set up a video game, Dad gives him a credit card and the average person will spend $90 a year. But now they're giving the game for free, and they're building in obstacles, and you have to use your Bitcoin account to solve the obstacle. Well, you think about you're a 15-year-old boy, and you're in there playing, and the team is saying, you only a 60. You got to be an 80, or you're not staying in our group. You talk about pressure. So he's in there playing all the time. And so now he's got to solve this problem he can't solve, but he needs Bitcoins. The average person on those two games are now spending $550 in 6 months. They've tripled it. They've quadrupled it. And here's the problem. The guys in the video game chat room, he'll say to the kid that doesn't have the money, hey, I'll give you $50 in Bitcoin, just send me your naked photo. And that kid is nailed. That's called sextortion. And all of a sudden, that photograph goes out, and it goes out to literally like 20,000 pedophiles, and he's being sold over and over in child pornography rings, and they start to contact him.
How do they get a hold of him?
Well, first of all, photographs have GPS on them. They can tell where he lives. And on top of it, the pedophile that was able to get the naked photo can pass that contact information on. So what will happen is they start to contact him saying, I need money. I need a lot of it. I want more sexual videos. I want some with your other family members. I want pictures. I'm in love with you. I'm coming over. And that family may have to move.
Well, this is just mind-blowing. I've been doing journalism for quite a while, and I did an interview with Noreen Gosh. Her son, Johnny Gosh, got abducted in 1982 as a pedophile ring out of Des Moines, Iowa. Mm-hmm. They literally had to take pictures, had people taking pictures, and someone picked him and nabbed him.
Yes.
But nowadays, you have this all within reach of video games.
Right.
And right within their fingertips.
Yes, and the real challenge, the other thing I'd ask parents to think about is play that video game with them, because many of these video games have hardcore pornography. You're not only adding violence, but in order to get your score, you're in a game where there's a huge amount of sex and nudity. I had a young man who was 14 tell me about Game of War. He said, Miss Singleton, this thing is really raunchy. And I said, really, do you play that game? And he said, yeah. And I said, do you play that every night? And he said, pretty much. And I said, well, are you addicted to it? And he said, I don't know. I said, well, are you giving it up? And he said, I don't think so. I said, well, you're addicted. And he says, yeah, well, it's really raunchy. And here I have a 14-year-old boy who's telling me, I am looking at adult hardcore pornography every night, and I know it's bad for me. But I got to get my score up, and it's part of the game, and the team has the heat on me. And I say to myself, what's this guy going to be like when he's 16 or 18 or a father or a husband? We need to get involved. Never buy a video game you're not willing to play yourself.
Well, for the people watching this today, this is eye-opening for me, and I've been doing research on this now the last several months because I'm doing the documentary. But I'm telling you, we're literally coming into this Babylon type of a spirit. Yes. So let me ask you you were talking about this earlier about Babylon.
Yes, actually, I came to realize one day that this is the first time in history since the Tower of Babel that God has allowed us to come together. Literally in 24 months, the entire world, right now it's about a little over 50%, but even in Cambodia, they have little bitty phones, okay? An entire world will be connected. I believe God will hold us responsible for how we use this. This technology we can use technology for the glory of God. We can use it to educate the poorest people and give them a Harvard education all over the world. We can use technologies in ways that build us all up and glorify God, or we can use technology that will exploit the next generation. And we get to decide. We are the parents and leaders of the most important generation that has ever lived. And that is the purpose of my Exploited Crimes radio show, is to train the entire world so they can understand how this happens.
Well, we're coming down to just a couple more minutes. I'm sensing this question. If there was no supply, if there was no demand, there'd be no supply.
Right.
So because of the sex trafficking, there's a whole number of people, men in particular, that want to purchase this.
Right.
And so say something to the men right now.
Oh, the first thing I would say is don't be on the demand side of this. Number one, you will get caught. We, law enforcement, run undercover stings on all of those Facebook pages, all of those back pages and like that. But number two, as a man, I believe, and I believe this with all my heart, that if you're a strong, moral male and you learn 4 words, I believe in you, and you have good boundaries, you can change the world of sex trafficking, because you show me a girl that didn't have a strong male role model, and I'll show you a girl with a hole in her heart. So you get to decide as a male, are you going to be part of the problem, Are you going to lead the solution? Learn 4 words. I believe in you. Go home tonight, make up 15 ways to say that, and start to be a leader to the women in your life. Your wife, your daughters, your nieces, your friends. Have good boundaries, have good morals, and be a leader.
Well, and for those of you watching, you males and you women, this is a time in history that we've never seen anything quite like it. You know, a lot of people in a certain age demographic, they didn't know. I mean, I remember just even when computers came in just 20, 30 years ago, and an older demographic, you know, didn't know how to even use the computer. Nowadays, everyone knows how they can use the computer, but they don't know about the smartphones. And so now this is the first generation that has been raised where they have access to technology at their fingertip, but also access to millions of predators at their doorstep. Opal, closing line, how can people get in touch with you?
They can reach me at Opal, O-P-A-L, at millionkids.org. They can follow us on Facebook. I follow Million Kids on Facebook all the time. Our 2 websites are millionkids.org, M-I-L-L-I-O-N, millionkids.org. And if you want free education, 50 hours of free education that you can use anytime you want and share, go to exploitedcrimes.com.
Thank you for coming on the program today, Opal, and thank you for watching Now Is the Time. You know, I'm doing a documentary called Freedom Cry. Just got back a month or so ago from Thailand and Hong Kong, and I'm researching this epidemic of trafficking, but I'm wanting to focus primarily with this documentary in the United States and what's happening here, because this is where the money is. This is where, you know, the gangs are grooming these girls, and it's becoming a huge epidemic. It's surpassing drug trafficking. Would you consider donating on my website today to help me? Anybody who donates over $500 will be able to, on the end of the credits, have their name or their business as contributors for putting this documentary together. You know, it's become quite a problem, and you can become part of the solution. The website is Meri Crouley, that's MERICROULEY.com. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can put our voices as one and make a sound so loud, and that the traffickers that are going to wake up and say, you know what, this is somebody's child. This is somebody's granddaughter. This is somebody's, you know, mother, possibly. I don't know, but all I know is we've got to awaken the conscience of a nation that this is human, modern-day slavery. This is not acceptable. This is wrong, and we need to say no, enough is enough. So anyway, thank you for watching Now Is the Time. Thank you for now is the time for you to make a difference. Your voice counts. See you next week.